but my eyes met those mismatched eyes in the servant's reflection in the carriage window, and I couldn't bear the silence any longer. Let's start over. My name is Ursa. What's yours? Names were harmless enough, I hoped. Emerin. That's pretty, I said. And now that you've managed your compliment, this conversation can be over. You've also gotten your staring in so you can report back to your little stick-figure ballerinos that the elf witch has patience and manners. Elf witch? I was fascinated to learn more about her. I had never met an elf or a witch before. Report back to the other dancers. I've never seen them before today. I have no ties to them. Why would I do that? Emerin fixed me with a stare that made me feel suddenly very cold. You and the other selfish twits will soon be bossing people, like me, around with very little care for our feelings, so you might as well tell them to do their worst because we can take it. We are used to hearing the unkind things said to us daily from the other harem dancers, and we won't be tricked into taking the punishment for harsh words or actions because we all have debts to pay off to the crown. I had heard what Emerin said, meant to respond, but one word was ringing through my mind like an echo in an empty dance studio. Did you say harem? Emerin's eyes shot to mine in what appeared to be horror. You cannot tell a soul the dancers aren't supposed to know. It makes getting everyone into the palace so much harder for the guards, and I would pay dearly for my inability to keep my mouth shut. I only have 6 years left, and I cannot add more. When my mother died, I had to add her sentence to my own to pay off the loan for our house that we lost when my father died. Please, just keep it to yourself. I shook my head in disbelief for both my own changed situation and for Emerin's. You had to add your own sentence after you lost your only surviving parent? That doesn't seem right. Why isn't someone working to change that? I was still reeling from the fact that I was on my way to a harem, but Emerin's story made me angry, and fire liked anger better than fear. My magic burned through my panic like a knife through butter. You hear that you've been tricked by a fairy prince, and yet you ask of my misfortune? Maybe you aren't like the others. Well, at least she was seeing me clearly now. Don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely terrified for myself, but being a fire user makes anger one of my quickest emotions. It tends to force everything else aside, especially when it perceives injustice. I was also angry about my situation, but the fact that Emerin clearly had self-esteem issues from working in the palace and had fallen into extra years of serving a sentence she had not taken part in deciding to take on in the first place made me furious. I wanted to help this stranger. She worked hard, yet she'd essentially been punished for having a death in her family instead of finding support from the palace during a time of pain. Nobody deserved to be punished for losing a family member. Death was punishment enough for the living left behind. I'm afraid you have come to the wrong place if injustice sets you off. There's much of it at the kingdom